Hiya. Hiya, hiya. Happy Monday, everybody. Can you hear me okay? I hope it's working on my microphone and not the camera this time. That drove me nuts. I couldn't believe it. Happy Monday. Happy Monday. Oh my gosh, I wasn't even going to go live today, and then I was like, "You know what? I need you guys today cuz I need for you guys to chit chat with me to keep my mind off of everything else I have going on." My goodness. Hey, Fizzy Love. Hello, Christina, Pokey, Stephen B. Stephen B has a great idea. I would love to do that. Hello, Tiggle Bitties, KDF. Oh, yeah, we're not going to play the enhanced audio from the doorbell or Linda Lane today. I might go live in the middle of the day. Hi, Carol. Thank you, Fizzy. Hi, Jethro. Hello, guys. I might go live in the middle of the day tomorrow, depending how things are going. Hi, Donna. Good to see you. I got the stuff going on with my grandma, and then we all know Bronx goes in tomorrow morning, and he knows something's up because I'm sure he can feel my energy that I'm just so worried. So worried. Oh, thank you, Donna. I appreciate that. Grandma, thank you for asking, Carol. Grandma I think she's getting a little bit better. It's just very, very slow. She did open her eyes by herself. She's completely paralyzed on the left hand side of her body and then her eyelids as well. So, opening her eyes is not the same as like us opening our eyes. Still, it's not. But she did have a small bit of pushback with her left foot the other day. So, hopefully, she's getting a little bit better. And they said she did try and sit up by herself today. So, hopefully, I mean, that's better than really what it could be. So definitely praying for the best. I appreciate you guys so much for asking and caring and praying and everything. Thank you, Carol. Starting off a Monday on a great, great note. Hello, Stardazer. Okay. So I want to start off with one thing. Of course, I want to talk about this interview with Brian Enton and Othram people and Stacy Chapin. I think this is so freaking wild. I get that, parents of crime and things like that try and, help and they'll create maybe like a program or a what's it called? Like scholarships and things like that. But I don't know. I just feel like Stacey Chapin teaming up with Othram is just weird, especially with the stuff we know court-wise and in the case and how things went down with all the DNA. And now coming out, all the DNA they held back from us. I just think this is a little bit strange. Hello, Sally from Iowa. Hey, Saltzilla. She is a walking contradiction. I have so many questions on this whole thing with Stacy teaming up with them. So many questions. But then our very own Fizzy, great and powerful Fizzy, sent me an email. So I'm actually going to share that as well because Fizzy made some great, great points in this email. So that's where we're going to start today. I'm not going to be on super, super long today just because I want to spend as much time with Bronx tonight as I can before he goes in tomorrow morning. So let me just go ahead and share this guy. Let me see if I can make it better. I always forget to do this. There we go. So I'm just going to play a little bit and we'll talk. And I just have so much on my mind still with all of this.
You've inspired so many people who have been following this case, me included. Just the way you've handled, the way your family has handled all of this with such class and dignity. And I think you have inspired a lot of people who are going through things and that they can kind of get out on the other side.
You can't succeed on YouTube without understanding the algorithm. That's why over 20 million creators are using.
And
Stargazer just said, just saw Pav's video. Hunter Chapin's Explorer is the loud one that showed up after Bethany's Snapchat. Do you know what time that is? Is that the 429 vehicle that pulls in, the SUV? That's very interesting. I do think you're right, Saltzilla. Says the author and people shouldn't have approached the Chapins, in my opinion. I feel like, and it could just be because I'm on the opposite side of the fence, I feel like some of this is in bad taste. I feel like, how do I say it without sounding like a completely uncompassionate person? And I guess that's part of my questions is, does Stacy Chapin even know, like, all the stuff going on with the DNA? Like, does she know? Did this Kristen or Krista or whatever the heck her name is from Othram, did she sit down with Stacy Chapin and say, listen, this is what kind of DNA was on the button snap of Bryan Kohberger's. This is what kind it was, and this is how much it was. Now, there's also not only Maddie and Kaylee's red fluid DNA on the opposite side of the sheath, but it's mixed in with a unknown male's red fluid DNA. Not touch, red fluid, which makes a huge freaking difference. I mean, if you would want to investigate any of the DNA there, I would be investigating the unknown male DNA red fluid mixed in on the back of the knife sheath rather than a tiny skin cell or something on the snap. Hello, welcome. It does make me. Thank you so much, Sally. I appreciate that. We need all the luck we can get lately. Seems like things have been crazy. Hey, stop that right now. It's okay if you're late. You're allowed to be fashionably late. Yeah, it seems I agree. Saltzilla says lots of DNA that they didn't want to test. And that's the whole thing that bothers me is they had it. They knew they had it. And they were very purposeful in not testing it and not looking into it. What I think is odd is everything they looked into regarding Bryan Kohberger, it was like the first time they would look into that, it was the first car they decided to look into, but that car was in the midst of several other cars. So why pick that car? And then it just happens to lead to Bryan Kohberger. And then you touch or you swab, one part of the sheath and it just happens to lead to Bryan Kohberger. Like, stop. They didn't even try to look into anything else. And to me, that seems very staged, very purposeful. Like, we know what we're setting up here, so why waste our time on anything else? That is what I feel is weird. Like, who would swab the button as the first, you know what I'm saying? Like, wouldn't you swab like where you grab it or where you would hook it on, or you know what I mean? I don't know. It's just strange. Well, and you're right, Fizzy, and that's so weird to me that they specifically say strap rather than the button snap. And to be honest, it wasn't even on the excuse me. It wasn't even on the male part of the button snap, that goes in. It was on the female part, which I would think would be a weird spot because if you're going to be pushing the snap in, you would think it would be the outside portion of the male part on the top where you would like push it in to click it. That's where I would think you would swab, or else on like the sides of it or the back of it where you might grab it and hold it, type of thing. I feel like the female part is just even a weird spot to try and test it. Yeah. The button is a good place to test. I just don't think the female part of the button is a good place. I would think the part where you push your thumb on it, the outside of the male portion where you would click it in, that's where I would think it would be tested. Yes, Christina, you are right. And we are going to talk about this. So thank you for bringing it up. Oh, cute picture. I like the blue. Christina says, I thought the FBI told them to stop and then they took over testing. And I think that's where so many people are confused. And that's what Fizzy sent me that we're going to talk about too. Oh, they wanted to preserve that part for prints. Well, what's interesting is they're preserving the part then that had the red fluid on it then, right? Which would be strange. I don't know. I might be picturing it wrong, but either way, it's just weird. I couldn't agree more. Contrary Marge, these parents are off-putting because they all find a reason to ignore their roommates not calling 911 as their children are getting unalived on their own red fluid for however long it takes. Oh my gosh, stop that right now. Thank you so much. You did not have to do that. My goodness. You guys make my nose run. That's my sign of love for all of you. Thank you so much. 5 memberships. My goodness. You are so appreciated. Yes, welcome everybody who got our stop that right now gave out 5 memberships and we appreciate it. They did. They did. Hi, Riding Down the Rabbit Hole. I haven't said hi to you yet. Hello, Elisanda. Did I say that right? Elisanda? That's pretty. That's awesome. Thank you so much. Fizzy said they tested that fluid enough to know it was unknown male, which also means not Bryan, not the victims, not Bryan's. I mean, the victims were in there, but they were the 2 female, right? So Maddie and Kaylee, obviously they have their stuff to test it again. So if they're saying unknown male, that means it's none of the victims and it's also not Bryan Kohberger's. The thing is, hi Hot Pie. The thing is, the way they like to word everything, they love to play on words. They love it. Is they don't want to say not Bryan specifically. They just say unknown male, right? Like they could be very specific in saying it's definitely not Bryan's, Bryan is excluded from this, but they just leave that part out every time. It's ridiculous. Okay, so Steven says Bryan Kohberger left behind far more DNA than previously known. Investigators reveal. Where did you hear that at? Or is because I haven't read that or seen that in a document or anything. I have not. If they did, I appreciate the info though. Let's see. Hi, Top. How are you? I haven't seen you in a few days. Yeah, I didn't hear that either. I thought the absolute only DNA was the one teeny tiny microscopic touch cell DNA. Whoops, sorry. Oh, okay. Okay. So I was going to talk about that actually. Stop that right now. So thank you for bringing that up. Stop that right now says, what about those untouched, perfect droplets? Are those just assumed to be from the victims? And I really did want to talk about that. I'm sitting here wondering, those droplets just drive me nuts. There's something to those droplets. And I don't know if I figured it out or not. I thought over the weekend, those droplets could actually be from a wound on the perpetrator, the hand, the finger, whatever, and it's dripping. But my question was, did they ever even take a sample of even one of those tiny droplets? Like, why would you not? If it looks different than the cast off all over the wall or the ceiling, it's not a puddle that's next to the victim. It's a tiny droplet that looks completely different than any other red fluid we see in the rooms, right? So why would you not, even just to be on the safe side, even if you think it's stupid, why would you not take a sample? That is so wild. There's just, I don't know. So, Othram was saying that there's a lot of Bryan's DNA on the sheath. Well, we know that's a lie because the number is in the document. The amount of Bryan Kohberger's found was in the documents, and it's like 0.19, no, 0.167 or something like that. And the amount you would get from a secondary transfer, right? If you shook somebody's hand and then this person's hand that you shook turned around and touched the knife sheath, the amount that that person would put on the knife sheath of your DNA, so second person transfer, was less than Bryan Kohberger's, was less than that amount, right? So Bryan Kohberger's, they found like 0.167, and the amount you'd get from a secondary transfer is like 0.198 or something like that. So it's definitely quite a bit less. So, and that's all that we know of. So if Othram is saying that, then they're lying. They are completely lying, because in nowhere is that in any document that there was more than that and more than that anywhere else, and more than that by actual number. Absolutely not. It seems like it. It seems like lying is the norm. Lying is the new truth in Idaho. And then, yes, exactly. Wellington, hello. And then Wellington says, were they duplicating his DNA? Yes, they did. They actually, when the sample came back, it was twice the size of the sample that they originally had. Now, I did some digging into that, and I guess there is a way you can do that, and it's not nefarious necessarily. It's just taking the same stuff that you already have and just, duplicating it, I guess. But I don't know how much I trust that. And the reason I don't trust it is just because I'm not knowledgeable on it. That's really it. Exactly, hot pie. Red rum is legal in Moscow. You got the urge, just go to Moscow because they'll pin it on somebody else. It's like, do I think that they just picked Bryan and pinned it on him? Or was it more strategic than that? Did they already have him picked out if in case anything happened? Or you know what I mean? Like, hello, Bo. Welcome. Happy Monday. Steve says, genetic genealogists working on the University of Idaho student red rum case found hundreds of times more DNA than a typical case as they raced to solve what article did you get that from, Steven? Monty! Monty! Thank you so much, Monty. Monty, I haven't seen you in like a week of Sundays. So that just made my day that you popped up, because I know you're always so concerned about Bronx and he's having surgery in the morning. So I'm so glad to see you. So glad to see you. Thank you so much. Yeah, where's Bianca today? Steven, can you post what article that came from or what your source is for that? That is new to me. I have not heard that, and I haven't seen that in any documents or anything. Oh, the middleman said that. Yeah, I don't believe him. I just don't believe him. I do not believe him. Steven says that the CEO or the founder of Othram, the middleman's, that he said that. Crazy. Wow. Okay, I'm going to play a little bit of this. If it gets kind of boring, I have ADD. So if it gets kind of boring, I'm going to click it off and we'll just talk about it ourselves.
Now partnering or working with Othram, it seems like you're kind of entering sort of, in a way, like the next chapter.
I don't disagree with that, actually. It feels like a very natural transition, I guess. I didn't know where it was all going to end or begin or how it was ever going to play out. But it made perfect sense when when the gag order was lifted and we could have a conversation. It made perfect sense. Because we're a face, we're a victim. We have been, Othram is involved in our case. And so it's just, yeah, it makes sense, right? And thank you. I mean, we've tried to take the high road through our case, through the entire, it's been it'll be 3 years in November, obviously, but.
You just said that Stacy and the way that she handled this inspired you. I had a question. I have this question all the time. How do you do the job that you do? See such evil.
Hold on. I cannot. And, oh my God, I cannot. That's hilarious. That is hilarious. Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. So obviously, I don't think that because Stacy Chapin or any of the Chapins, well, number one, they have Ethan in the basement, which I guess to each their own. I don't know what their basement looks like. It could be, have tons of games and pool tables and fun stuff down there. I don't know what it looks like, but just the sound of it sounds kind of like a, I don't know, kind of disrespectful in a sense, I guess, is what I'm trying to say. But again, I don't know what their basement looked like. So they have Ethan in the basement, number one. Number two, the brother and sister, the triplets, are now calling themselves twins. And they didn't have anything to do with anything that had to do with this case in court at all. Like the legalities of it, they had nothing to do with it. So I could assume, right, that the Chapins haven't read not one word on any document ever. So I think that they just think what they think and are not looking at the facts at all, because they don't seem like really unintelligent people. I don't know if they're super intelligent, but they don't seem like unintelligent people. It seems more like they don't want to know. But in that sense, then you're kind of out here making yourself look like a fool, teaming up with somebody who possibly did something illegal in this case and obviously isn't telling the truth about it. And then it makes me wonder, how much does she actually know? Does she know the amount found and a factual number? And was that explained to her along with the other stuff on the sheath? Like, was it explained to her what that could mean? And that's what I want to know. Because I feel like she might be saying something different. Kind of like the G's a little bit. I know the G's question a little bit if somebody else was involved. I think they think Bryan did it, but I think they think it wasn't done alone, which I think a lot of people think that. But it just makes me think that the Chapins aren't like knowledgeable about the facts in the actual case regarding the DNA.
And not be affected by it. And I have to say that I see some really terrible things and some really terrible parts of humanity, but then I also see pure light. And I feel like Stacy is one of those people that went through the worst of what society can give you, the unimaginable. I can't imagine going through what Stacy went through. And instead of letting that define her, she's actually turned the worst experience of her life into light. And she wants to give back to the world in a positive way and advocate for justice and fairness for everyone, advocate that technology is used in real time. That means a lot to me.
All right. Sorry, guys. Well, I have to stop it every whatever. But yes, stop that right now. Says really appreciate the diverse opinions and information shared in this channel. Thanks to all of you. I agree. You guys are amazing. I love the chat over here. It's so awesome. But I don't like when a business, because technically it's a business, right? Teams up with like a well-known face and act like they're best friends all of a sudden, knowing that the business is just teaming up with that face because it's going to bring more people, more attention, and more dollars. That's it. Like, you're not fooling anybody. Stop it. Stop acting like you guys are BFF right now.
Although we won't go into the details of exactly how we met until tomorrow at our talks, so that people still wake up in the morning and come to our talk.
And want to come.
We bumped into each other by chance.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
this case was difficult because all of us were under a gag order.
Foil is
And we couldn't
in.
have our first real conversation until that gag order was lifted.
Yeah.
And that was really difficult. Everything I do here at Othram, everything everyone here at Othram does is for the victims and their families. We're victim advocates first. And it's very difficult to meet your why.
Whose family though? She says we're in it for the victims and their families, but whose family, right? The victims and the family, but you don't care about ruining anybody else's family, right? The adverse effects it would have on somebody else's family that's accused. I wish there was a place like Othram, but it was completely 1,000% just pure honest, and they would just go in and test everything on the sheath and compare it to actual human beings. Why can't we do that? I don't understand. Why can't we know everything that's on that sheath?
And to not be able to tell them how you feel, what's going on in the case. But that's the deck of cards we were dealt in this scenario. And we're here tomorrow and I think indefinitely to try to advocate that others aren't dealt the same deck of cards.
Yeah.
Because it's difficult, right? To know that you have information that could help someone heal, that could help someone feel safe or secure, and to not be able to give it to them is difficult. To know that there's a family member out there wondering what is going on, and everything that's in the media is incorrect, for a lack of a better.
She did not just say that. Oh my God. Okay. First, Hot Pie says, well, they didn't have enough refrigerators because we know about the samples that were in the refrigerator. Oh my God. But yes, obviously it's about money, and that's just sick. I hate that everything's about money. I cannot stand it. And before I talk about what she just said, Stephen brought up a good point. So while I have everybody in here, I just want to say that Stephen mentioned something about us having a panel over here, and I think that's a really good idea. So if you guys are interested, let me know. I would love to do like once a week, maybe on like a Friday evening. Once a week, I'd like to do a panel where we have a couple people up here and everybody's able to just speak, like 4 of us up here and actually speak. And then the following week we'll have different people. And I think that would be a great idea. That would be fun. But, dang, now I forgot what she said.
Sure, and to not be able to give it to them is difficult. To know that there's a family member out there wondering what is going on, and everything that's in the media is incorrect, for a lack of a better word, or
Everything in the media is incorrect. Well, everything in the media is what you guys believe. Not you guys, Stacey Chapin and this Othram lady. Well, that's what you guys believe. So why is she saying everything in the media is wrong? I mean, I agree with her. Everything in the media is wrong, right? Goodness. Yeah, exactly. Bull hockey.
Just speculation, because everyone that worked this case, all the family members that were involved, none of us could speak to the media.
Yeah.
You know that more than anyone.
Right.
And so everyone's speaking, everyone out there.
Okay, Steven. Steven says, heads up, I honestly believe BK did it. Were you on the fence? Have you always thought he did it? Have you been on the fence? At one point, did you think he didn't do it? And why? I know it would be easier if we could just, if you were on the panel or something, but for right now, if you changed your mind, what was it that changed your mind? Just curious. Yeah, I think that's hi bodega lady. I think that's odd that nobody has challenged the narrative. None of the parents have. I think Steve G kind of tried to in his own little way. I don't think it was necessarily to be on the same page that we are all on for the most part, but I think he did try to question here and there. And didn't somebody tell Steve G basically in their own words, they basically said like, she's gone, she's never coming back, let it go type of thing. I thought I heard that in an interview, which is wild. I don't understand why suddenly Steve G is, or the Gonsalves family is mad, so mad at the prosecution. Like, we were all trying to tell you that before. And then come to find out that they didn't even know much about Kaylee until after the sentencing is wild. Judge Hippler, like, I have a whole different view of him. At first, I thought he was just like siding with the prosecution, basically, and making the defense like really work and prove it. But I don't know. I don't even know if he listened half the time. I think he was like in his own little world and not paying attention and didn't have a clue how to handle this, as well as completely siding with the prosecution. Right. If Bryan was there, he never went into the house, in my opinion. And in a nutshell, that's exactly what the prosecution said. Like, they can't have it both ways. True, yeah. And then the 92nd comes out. Yeah, absolutely, Fizzy. Fizzy says making the families FOIA their loved ones' files is despicable. Yep.
Giving interviews and speculating with no knowledge, with very little information what was going on. And they painted the wrong picture. And finally, we have our voices back.
Yeah, right.
And we're excited to tell the story.
Was it? Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Stacey.
No, I just was going to say you have to understand it's the most advanced technology, forensic DNA technology in the world. I'm not the scientist, but I've been on the receiving end of having them not only work on our case, but there was a comfort there. I mean, and that's part of the story we'll tell tomorrow, is that we met by chance, and I had some knowledge throughout our case of what the Middlemans were doing, and I relied on that. Jim and I relied on that in our darkest.
Was it a just by chance meeting? No, I'm pretty sure Othram was seeking them out, and I'm sure they weren't the first and only family that they sought out to come be a face on Othram's name for marketing. Come on, stop it.
Moments. I didn't know anything, that I wasn't supposed to know, but it was a blessing, and victims' families should have the right to that information if they're going through the same thing we are. I mean, inevitably, there's going to be families that are in the same position we are.
Yeah, I guess there would have been a lot more certainty had it been explained.
It's definitive information. There was so much, so much speculation. There still is. It's shocking to me.
I mean, this is science.
It's scientific.
Yeah, there's
right?
no speculation.
Perfect point, lady. She says, I mean, this is science. Perfect point. That's the whole point, is that it's science. You can't like speculate in science, right? So the amount of Bryan Kohberger's DNA is science, and it is not enough of his DNA to be a primary transfer of his own DNA. He did not touch that with his own hands, or there would be so much more DNA, especially in the place they got it from.
I mean, if you knew definitively that that knife sheath was without a shadow of doubt, which is the case, now that it's all said and done, it would have been different going through. You would have relied on, you kind of went, okay, maybe we don't need to worry as much as we need to worry.
Yeah, and there was one advanced forensic test performed. There was one profile. There was so much speculation out there about multiple profiles, incongruent information. There is only one lab that is doing this type of DNA technology that tested that DNA, and it's ours. And I couldn't come forward and say, no, this is definitive.
Right.
There is one profile with these matches that led to this conclusion that pointed directly to Bryan Kohberger's family, right? That none of that could be said before, and that was very frustrating. And
okay, so yeah, Fizzy, I totally see. What the heck? So she is saying, this is what Fizzy emailed me about. We talked about it. So I wanted to play this because Fizzy pointed exactly this out, where she says from Othram, this is science. There's only one profile, and we had it the whole time. Well, in the court documents, it says that you were asked to stop working on it on like the 10th. And then Bryan Kohberger's name, the match of DNA or whatever, came out on the 19th. And supposedly they couldn't work on it anymore after the 10th. And they weren't finished completing a profile or finished with their work at all. FBI told Othram to stop working on it. So they were supposed to stop working on it. So how, if you weren't finished, did you then get Bryan Kohberger's profile on the 19th? But Bryan Kohberger's name was brought up before that. Oh my God. Hey, Rolo. Yeah, exactly. This lady's driving me wild.
not be able to tell the family or to talk about it. The law enforcement agents that worked this case couldn't talk about it. No one that had any information could correct the record.
Right.
And so what ended up happening is everyone tried to figure out, why was this information not out there? What was missing? What was the missing component? And came up with a whole bunch of speculations that led to uncertainty. And that uncertainty continued to grow. And I think that was the most difficult on the victim's family.
Yeah, I agree with that. Yeah.
And no one else, right? Like, I was certain the entire time because I saw the science. I knew the results, right? I never had one doubt in my mind that we'd be sitting here today, whenever today was, whether it's after the trial, before the trial, at a plea. I knew that this day was going to come. But the victims' families didn't have that certainty. I don't even know if you want.
You guys are on a roll today. Hafi says, I don't trust a lab tech with shoulder pads. I can't. That's going on a shirt. I promise you it is. Oh my God. What is crazy though? Thank you, Truth Exposed. I had saw that the 50 times thing and I was like, wait, that was Xana. Wait. Okay, so thank you. Oh my God, that is so funny. The thing is she's like, I knew it. I knew the whole time. And I had the answers to stop all this speculation. Really? Well, if you have all the answers to stop the speculation, then tell us whose DNA was on the back of the sheath in red fluid mixed with Kaylee and Maddie's red fluid. Tell us that if you know everything to stop the speculation.
Law enforcement involved in the case had that certainty. I don't know how far the results actually propagated as the full result of the investigation because everything was kept so under wraps. And I think that needs to change. Stacey's right. This technology is superior to traditional DNA testing. Traditional DNA testing looks at 20 markers and is there to confirm identity. It was purpose-built in the 90s to help confirm someone's identity or connect someone to multiple crimes if they're a serial perpetrator. Our technology takes place much earlier in an investigation. We can infer someone's identity because we're looking at hundreds of thousands of markers, almost 1 million markers every time we build one of these DNA profiles. So we can infer identity by looking at 6th cousins, 5th cousins, 4th cousins, and figuring out who left that DNA at the crime scene. By inferring that identity, we're giving that information to law enforcement. And I want to make clear, because there are questions in our talk today for David, and I'm sure in our talk tomorrow, that we don't tell them this is your perpetrator. We say this person's profile, or one of these 2 or 3 people in this family left DNA at this crime scene, meaning that they then need to investigate. They need to contextualize that information.
Really, lady, was the DNA left there? I mean, I know it was from the people who did it because it's on the knife sheath, and I'm not talking about Bryan Kohberger. Or was it brought in there? Was it left there or was it brought in there? Because there's a difference, Miss Lady Ma'am, sir.
They knew in the Kohberger case that there was a white Elantra that was seen at the crime scene. Now they knew that there was a family in Pennsylvania that was identified. Could they look up a white Elantra that had a Pennsylvania plate or a Pennsylvania driver? Of course they could. And that's part of their investigation. I don't know the order of which the investigators actually investigated that case, but they were able to piece all those pieces together because we gave them the information that we gave them. And as they pieced all those...
That's a lie. Nope. They came up with Bryan Kohberger's name before you had to stop working on it, but then still worked on it and then lied about it and then got Bryan's name. Aw, Stop That Right Now says, I really believe Kaylee would have followed your channel, Logan, and joined in this chat. For really real. That would have been cool. Well, it wouldn't have been the same, but you know what I'm saying. That'd be cool.
Puzzle pieces together, it became very clear that there was only one suspect that was possible of committing this crime.
Stacey, do you want other families like who are going? I mean, do you think things need to change?
Absolutely.
Nationwide?
And I don't know what the answer to that is. I mean, we're just getting started on this. But you know, even if you don't know anything, but you know that Othram was involved in identifying a perpetrator, you know that's it's a comforting piece of information. The rest of it takes all of enforcement as well, right? I mean, it still takes this entire case.
Yes, Juicy Beat. That is Ethan's mom. Next to the lady, I want to say her name's like Kristen or Krista, something like that. She's from Othram, the DNA place. But there's just a lot of lies, I guess, going on with this whole scenario right here. Acting like best friends when I think you both are kind of using each other.
Yeah, so but there is a piece that is definitively in that home.
I think that I'm trying to remember how, but I think it leaked out at one point. I forget. Often it came out at some point.
It did.
I don't remember how exactly.
I think it was a New York Times article.
That's right.
Maybe right or wrong about that being the first source, but they had pulled a contract between Idaho State Police and Othram for this type of advanced DNA testing. And so they said, well, they're in contract. So it's very possible that Othram is the lab, but Othram will give no comment, as we couldn't give a comment at the time.
Stop That Right Now says Brian Enton knocked on the Kohberger's door in the dead of dang night. Lost some respect for him then. I didn't even know that Brian Enton did that. And yeah, I didn't. Yeah, that's not cool. Hello, Sherlock. Hello, hello. Yeah, we were I've kind of been talking about it the past 10 minutes or so. Pretty much everything this lady at Othram is saying is a freaking lie, because she's acting like there was just an abundance of Bryan Kohberger's DNA, and there's not. And the place that it is, you would think there would be more than what there is. Even though we know it was less than a secondary transfer amount, I would still think there would be a little bit more. But if she's so knowledgeable, and you can't speculate with science, it's fact. Well, then you also have the fact that there is a mixture of DNA with a DNA from an unknown male mixed in with the other DNA, which is all red fluid DNA, rather than as opposed to Bryan Kohberger's, which is just like a skin cell that you would never be able to see ever in life, and like just one. It's okay, buddy. Yeah, IgG is, yeah, just like Sherlock says. Yeah, and IgG cannot identify anyone. It doesn't use the scientific method. IgG literally isn't science.
Yeah. And, and in this case specifically, which is very interesting, and I don't think we'll talk about this tomorrow, is that had it happened 7 miles west in Washington state, they might not have had knowledge of.
Okay, buddy, you're going to have to wait. Mommy's working. You have to wait, okay? Good boy. He just gave me the saddest puppy dog eyes. Okay, yes, I'm glad you brought that out. Truth Exposed says he tortured Xana after she was on her back so he could watch her pupils fade away, just like Tommy Lynn Sells. If you don't know who Tommy Lynn Sells is, look him up. I actually wanted to bring him up like a week or two ago, and I kept forgetting to bring him up. So thank you so much for mentioning that name, because I have something to say on that. Tommy Lynn Sells was a serial unaliver, and he went in, broke into different homes, usually through the window, all over the place, different states, different towns, whatever. Now, he got caught because he broke into a house, and it was a slumber party with, I could be wrong on this, but I'm pretty sure it's like 3 girls were in there, like young, like kids, like 12 and under. And Tommy Lynn Sells, in the dead of night, by himself, with a sharp weapon, could not handle 3 little girls. One of them was left alive because he couldn't handle 3 at one time. So, and then one of them was sleeping. So you're trying to tell me that Bryan Kohberger, and this, now Tommy Lynn Sells is a guy who had done this tons and tons of times before. So he was experienced when he broke into that house and couldn't handle 3 little girls that were like 8, 9, and 10, or 8, 9, and 12, or something like that. They were young, and they, I'm sure, weren't fighting back that much, not as much as an adult can. So if an experienced unaliver could go in and not handle 3 little girls, I do not believe that a guy who's much smaller than Tommy Lynn Sells could do it with 4 and had never done it before. I'm just not buying it. I'm curious what everybody thinks about the statement that Bethany made. 2 statements I want to talk about that Bethany made, because I just saw somebody bring her up in the chat. So I want to speak on her. Number 1, she lied 3 times about where her room is located. And all 3 times it was the same lie, but it was 3 separate times she tried to lead the police on to think that her room is the room to the right when you walk in the front door. And I'm curious why she did that. Was it because maybe she knew they took stuff from Dylan's room or something? I mean, why is she lying about where her room is? And you can't say that it was she just misspoke because she did it 3 times. Let's see. Here's my thing with the whole 911 thing and the whole Dylan thing. And I guess Bethany would fit in there too, since I think they're both liars. So you're trying to tell me that Dylan and Bethany, well, I guess first Dylan saw Xana on the floor just laying there and then heard all this stuff, right? All this, what she calls commotion or whatever, people screaming, literally people being unalived in the moment, right? She sees Xana laying on the floor and left her there. And then said she thought that she was laying on the floor because she was basically being unalived by alcohol, by drinking alcohol. And you still left her there for over 8 hours before doing anything. You are a shit person, sir. Hello, Liv. Yes. And then they find red fluid on stuff that's in her room. Most importantly, the blanket that was on her bed, they found red fluid on. So, yeah. That could be the rubber ducky. God. I'm like, first of all, that had to be Blaker's first interview ever in his whole life. Like, there's no possible way that he's interviewed somebody before her. No way. I don't believe it. But then she looks like a dang rubber ducky. I want to know where she got that shirt from because that's not what she was wearing previous to coming to the police station. The other point I have about the police station is if everybody on these, episodes, Hulu and ABC and whatever else they put out there, 2020 Dateline, these so-called friends are doing interviews and they're saying that everybody loved Xana and everybody loved Ethan and they were great people and everybody had a crush on Xana and blah, blah, blah. They were just, so fun to be around and blah, blah, blah. How come then not one person from that party went to the police station to say, hey, I saw Xana at the Sigma Chi party last night and I think she left about 3:00 or whatever it was. If everybody loved them so much, there should have been a line at the police station all the way miles long with every person that attended that party lining up at the police station to tell them what they saw, who Xana talked to, what time she left, what time she got that, like all those, but not one friend, not one person from that party went to the police station. Why? If they're so loved and they're such great people and there's, you know what I'm saying? I'm not saying anything bad about the victims. I'm saying the so-called friends are crappy ass friends. Sorry for my language. So yeah, Dylan is the worst of them all because she even thought Xana was laying on the floor because she was having issues with alcohol, knowing dang well that that girl also took substances and you just let her lay there. Why couldn't you call a friend if you were worried about drugs or whatever's in the house? Why couldn't you call Hunter over then when you saw her? You just let her lay there. I don't know, just with the way that everything looks, it's a little bit hard for me to think that a female wasn't there in some capacity, whether it's to be, excuse me, whether it's to be a lookout or to actually try and unalive or whatever. I think that a female had something to do with it. I just don't know what. She says, Steve, you definitely cannot Go on, panel. Hi, Jillian. I absolutely agree. I do think that. And I think that's why everybody is scared to talk, specifically the roommates, because they think they're going to get in trouble. And they're also scared of the repercussions from the people who actually did it because they know them. Absolutely. Exactly, Isaac. They couldn't even spell her last name. Wait, they couldn't even spell her last name and didn't even know how. Yes, exactly. They're so upset that they need over $100,000, right? So upset. But you couldn't even spell. You literally spelled it Kernoodle. Kernoodle. Literally spelled almost all of their names wrong. Pronounced them wrong. But you guys are so close and whatever that you need $100,000. Hello, Fred. Uh, yeah. Yeah, I can go over that. Well, yeah, we can do that. I'll do that right now. 1 second. Let me remove this. 1 minute. Uh, Bronx is just staring at me. Are those in the ISP documents? I'm trying to think. I can't remember. Idaho State. La 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 la. 1 second. I'm gonna grab it. Let's see if I can find it in here. That is this one? Darn it. I'm not sure which one it is. 1 second. I'm going to download them really, really quickly. It's almost done. Now, I did see Harsh talk about the red fluid today, maybe yesterday. I can't remember, but we'll go ahead. And he pretty much said the same thing I did when we first saw the pictures. I gotta find them. I can't remember where they're at. Does anybody know off the top of your head if they're in the ISP documents, the kitchen pictures with the Amido black on it, or if they're in I don't think they're in this one. Sorry, 1 second. I'm going through these. Oh, there we go. Okay, I got them. I'm going to share this one first. Doobie doobie doo. Okay, here we go. Request to talk about the red fluid in the kitchen. Okay, so I think what Harsh explained earlier today, I believe it was basically how this is used. And the fluid actually comes out blue. So what you see here does not mean that this is red fluid. So what happens is you spray the Amido black and it comes out blue, right? And then whatever protein it's binding to, it will then turn even darker, like we see in this picture where it's darker. And the material that it's left on makes a difference as well. If it's super porous, it might turn a darker color. It just depends on what material the red fluid is on and how it accepts the chemical of amido black being placed on it, right? So the problem we have in the kitchen, so I guess what they do is they put it on there and then they see what turns super dark, and then they take it away somehow or something like that, I think is what I heard. I could be very, very wrong, but I thought I heard something like that. And then just whatever would be left would be the red fluid protein binding to the amido black chemical. So here, being that it's in the kitchen, this could be binding to literally any protein. So we know their house is a disaster. I can see pieces of food literally in the background on the counter itself. It could be binding to milk that was spilled 2 weeks ago. It could be binding to chicken. There's a pan on the stove that had chicken in it, I believe. They just cooked mac and cheese. It could be anything from butter to milk it could be anything that was spilled and then they tried to clean it up. From what I understand, amido black it can be activated by some cleaning products, depending on what metals are in there and what type of cleaner it is and what's in the cleaner, things like that. It can. So is this binding to red fluid protein? I would say probably not. I'm not saying all of it is not, but I think some of this at least is not from actual red fluid. And I know that because, first of all, where the bag is, that would have had red fluid on it as well. You know what I'm saying? If all this red fluid happened, the bag would have it on there too. Like this, I mean, it could be red fluid. I can't say that it's not. I can't say that because I don't know. But what I'm saying is there could be other things that it's binding to. It's not necessarily red fluid. And this is the point I like to make. Do you see the paper towel holder? Let me see. Yeah. Do you see the paper towel holder thing? And do you see those blue dots on the paper towel? If that was red fluid, you can't clean red fluid off of a paper towel unless it's, you get the whole thing wet, which in that case you would know, you would be able to see it. So red fluid did not get on this paper towel, but you see that there's blue on it. I guess that's the best way I can describe it. Do I think there's a cleanup? I absolutely do. Absolutely. Without a doubt. Because in the court documents, it states from a doctor, there was direct and indirect evidence of a cleanup. So that's basically how amido black works. Just because you see a dark blue doesn't mean that that's necessarily a red fluid protein that it's binding to. So without having all the details on it, we can't really say for sure what it's binding to, stuff like that. And then what else I find strange is we see in Bryan Kohberger's car, they used the luminol and obviously found nothing because it's not lighting up to anything. Now, I don't know if they used luminol because of the color of the interior of the car. I, in my mind, thought you might want to use the same chemical throughout the whole crime scene and evidence just to be on the same page with everything. But because it's blue, you can't see it probably on this type of material or this color material. But then again, why, if you're going to use one in the car, why not use the other? You know what I mean? I don't know. I know it was processed later and whatnot. And that could be it. But I would think use a product that can be used throughout. So you know what you have. You have the control and then you have the tests, right? But whatever. I don't know, Bridget. I think, yeah. That's what makes me so mad about Dylan. And I don't understand how guilters can't see that. Either way you put it, she was leaving her friend to not be okay all night. What I also find is that's odd is if we look in the background, this is Bryan Kohberger's car. They have literally evidence from the house in the same look. There's the mattress. They have literally the same evidence from the house, the same stuff from the victim in the same room as Bryan Kohberger's car. Do you know what Bryan Kohberger's car is freaking filled with? Inside and out, Bryan Kohberger's DNA. So why would you put it in the same room? I don't care if it's in a paper bag. I don't care. I don't care if it's 5 feet away from the mattress. If they then took that mattress to do a second testing and you've got it sitting there next to Bryan Kohberger's car, just because somebody puts gloves on and touches Bryan Kohberger's car and then goes to touch a piece of evidence, you can transfer his DNA onto it just from having it in the same spot. That's so stupid. Yeah, I did look into the bug gardens. I tried to see. I thought something looked like he had it on it, but then Fizzy sent me a picture from when he changed his plates because they were going to expire, not because he was trying to change his plates, just because they were going to expire. Hey, Moto Max, Motoman Max. Motoman Max, thank you so much, says, did they truck the car from Pennsylvania all the way to Idaho? Dang, I never thought of that. That's a very good question. That's a really good question. I actually have never thought of that. I wonder if they towed it. Did they? I wonder, I'm going to have to look into that. That's a really good question. I'm going to write it down. Very good question. I have no idea. Oh, they hooked it to the U-Haul? Oh, okay. They hooked it to the U-Haul then, I guess. Huh. That's interesting. That's really interesting, actually. So, hold on. So somebody had to get into Bryan Kohberger's car, right, to get it hooked on to the U-Haul. But then you're going to put stuff of the victims into the back of the U-Haul after touching Bryan Kohberger's car? Like, it makes me wonder how much cross-contamination we have here, like all throughout. Thank you, Motoman Max. That's always a mouthful for me. And thank you for being here too. Sorry guys, I'm just reading chat. This is just so crazy to me that they have it in the same room. And I think that there's just no way, no matter how many layers you had on and took off, and then got in the car, you are still, I don't care, you are still going to track some DNA into your car that would be like on the stitching in the seat, or, on the floorboard that soaked through a little bit, something. There's just no way that there would be absolutely not a speck iota of DNA in his car of the victims. It's just not possible. I will give Bronxy so many kisses tonight. I really don't even want to drop him off. I want to just sit there and stay with him all day. It's hurting my stomach just thinking about it. Did anyone ever hear that Ethan only had one sock on? I know that Kaylee only had one sock on. I don't know if Ethan only had one. No, I think he had both. I'll look that up too. I'm pretty sure he had both though. But Kaylee only had one. Her other sock was in the living room, right? And then we have one Doc Martin shoe in the living room and two upstairs, which is weird to me. Oh, thank you, Steven. Oh, no, not at all. Steven, you are always welcome here. I hope you know that. I hope I'm not super reading the chat because it goes so fast for me, but I just hope people are being nice to you. It's fine to have a difference of opinion. That's perfectly fine. Not a problem at all. And I appreciate that so much. But yeah, you are more than welcome to be here, even if you have a difference of opinion. It's okay. If we were all the same, it would be boring. So, yes, Shanna. Hello. Good to see you. So, Shanna says Xana's foot was bagged, just one of them. And I always, well, not always, but when I found that was really, really strange. Does that mean that there is some sort of evidence just on that one foot that she fought back, maybe kicked and had a cut on the bottom of her foot? I find that weird. Do you want to know what else I find really weird? Is they said they found debris on the front of Xana's door to her bedroom. Now, I don't know what they mean by debris, and they use the word debris a lot in these documents now. So we also know that debris was collected from Bryan Kohberger's pillow. And in the Bryan Kohberger's pillow case, not the case, but within itself, had like a little spot on it, and they thought it maybe could be red fluid. So they collected it, but they labeled it debris. So my thoughts were on the debris on Xana's door. Is it red fluid? Because why wouldn't they just say red fluid like they said for everything else? Or was there actual debris on her door because somebody kicked it in or tried to or did? And maybe that's the boom or noise that maybe Bethany heard. I'm just wondering. 1 minute, baby. I take you in 1 minute. So I'm not sure. I don't know. Why wouldn't they just label it possible red fluid if that's what they thought was taken from Bryan Kohberger's pillow? And then they label the debris on her door debris. I don't know. I don't know what it could be. I wish I knew. Oh, and also, so I guess we know now that Maddie, or Kaylee, what did you tell? Who was it? Maddie, what did you tell Adam? I told Adam everything. I think we've kind of landed on the conclusion with that basically it was Maddie telling Adam that Kaylee wanted to get back with Jack. Okay, baby, 1 minute. 1 minute. You have to wait. I think we basically got to the bottom of that, right? That what Maddie told Adam was that Kaylee wanted to get back with Jack. And then all the phone calls. But then it comes out in Bethany's interview that Bethany didn't think Kaylee was moving anymore, which then would make sense that she's trying to get back with Jack. I was like, why is she trying to get back with Jack if she's moving to Texas? But with Bethany saying she didn't think Kaylee was moving anymore, that could make sense. Why she'd want to get back with Jack. Rolo says all the stuff we hear on the Linda Lane footage is coming from triangular points being the walkway from Queen Apartments, Taylor Apartments, Banfield, with the treehouse backyard being in the center of it all. I'm going to go back, and I haven't listened to the audio on the Linda Lane stuff in, I don't know, 2 months maybe. So I'm going to go back and actually listen to that because I haven't. And now that we have more information, I always think it's really cool after we get more information to go back and check again on the information we already know, but that we haven't looked at in a while, and see where it all fits together. Thank you, Anna P. Music. I'm actually going to hop off, guys, because Bronx really wants to go. I don't know if you can hear him crying, but I want to, Rolo, I want to spend some time with him tonight since he's having surgery in the morning. And now he's pacing. So I'm going to go ahead and jump off, guys. I just want to spend some time with my baby. I will definitely update you guys on how everything goes tomorrow. I might jump on live tomorrow. I'm not sure yet. Don't quote me. If not, I'll have a video put out for you guys tomorrow. So I will be on, if I'm not on tomorrow, I'll definitely be live Wednesday then. So either way, I'll see you guys. Thank you for being here so much. Thank you, Carol. Thank you, Monty, so much. Thank you for the 5 gifted membership. Stop that right now. And Moto Man MX. And Moto Man MX. How much evidence did the road saw? Oh, that's a good question. I didn't think about that. Oh, no, my pen doesn't work. Because we saw it tracked in. We saw salt and stuff tracked in, right? Into the house. Interesting. You have great questions, by the way, Moto. And thank you, Steven. Absolutely no hard feelings ever. You're always welcome. Always. No matter what your opinion is, it's okay. So, guys, do something nice for yourself. Be kind, but more importantly, be kind to your animals. Thank you, mods, for being the best mods. Thank you, everyone in chat, for always having excellent conversations. We love you guys so much. And I will see you very, very, very soon. And I'll give you an update as soon as I have one. Bye, guys.